Thank you so much, Heather. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I want to thank Gio for giving me an opportunity to share some ideas and reflections on my experience and our work at MusicianCorps and elsewhere around social innovation and evidence and arts and impact. So the point I'm making, really, is that in our organizations, in our collective groups that we work in our sectors, and in ourselves, we really need to seek a balance between the hard outcomes, the soft, what is explicit, what is implicit, what is emergent, and what is already there. That is how we should be investing. And I heard in the earlier talk somebody mentioned these ideas are around, and sort of now the gap is between people getting it and action. And I think that that's both exciting, but that's kind of the field in which we labor. Here are some of the barriers that I've personally encountered, again, both in myself, my own organizations, but also with funders. And I think they're really cultural in their nature. They're almost psychological. And they manifest in sometimes the structure of giving as different silos. Okay, rather than looking across sectors and multi-sectoral solutions, people wanted to call us arts, and we don't do arts anymore, so we can't have this conversation. But 7 out of 10 kids want to go to school because of MusicianCorps. I thought you were trying to lower the dropout rate. Well, yeah, but we don't do arts. So it's we do veterans. Well, here's where we're doing with veterans. So it's thinking about not missing those opportunities because they may have simultaneous outcomes in other areas. The other one, exclusivity, kind of works with all of these. It's nobody signs up and says, hey, let's be exclusive. We're trying to be exclusive, obviously. But when we start with good intentions, we get experts around the room. We want to make the best decisions. And I think what can happen is over years and over decades, sometimes the experts stay the same, but the environment changes quite a bit. And so what begins as expertise becomes exclusivity. And it can be very difficult for new games, new ideas, innovations to get into that circle if one of those originators didn't carry it there. And I think that's true in national service. I think it's true to somewhat in the arts. It may be true in philanthropy as a whole. But it's important to think that what is being excluded becomes resistance at some point to any system. What is inclusive is resilient. And over time, exclusivity breeds incumbency. And incumbency kills innovation. Just think of a rainforest. Think about if no light is able to get through to the bottom where ideas are generated. No sector in the for-profit world works like that. They certainly try through monopolies, but it doesn't happen because of destruction and creativity and venture capital and funding mechanisms to support the growth of the new innovations. And then in ourselves, biases. We all have biases. We all have beliefs. We must have convictions to do our work. But the question is, what are we doing with them? What role do they play for us? Are we looking around to confirm them, or are we questioning them? And I would argue that the latter is the safer and more and smarter bet, because as any investor knows, what you don't see is what is going to hurt you, and what you do see, or what you don't see, can save you. And so I don't see artists here, and I don't mean to harp on this, but I want to just bring these guys back a bit, because the other thing I'm not seeing is the most powerful thing about service and the arts, to me, is its ability to bring people together. When you think about that playground build, it's not just the playground that is the result. It's the culture and the community that gets created between the people who learn to trust, who learn to cross silos, who learn that they're not as different from one another as they thought. When I look at this photo, I see a lot of people, some of them look almost mad, I'm not quite sure what they're so serious about. There's a hole right there for a guitar player. I'm just wondering, they're doing their work, but they're not connecting with one another. And I feel like the service movement tried to keep that kind of soft idea down to the side. But actually, it's what makes the habitat build so powerful in addition to the home. They did bring music into it when it came to relating to everybody else. They popped those earbuds into Rosie the Riveter, right? Because that is what made service relevant. That's what made it accessible. Probably sold a few magazines. And it shows, once again, that was music for national service. What would music national service look like? You know, some folks may have heard the term, have you ever heard the term STEAM? A couple of you, okay. Well, for those who haven't heard about it, a lot of arts advocates, and I agree with them, say it shouldn't just be about science, technology, engineering, and math. We need arts in there as well. But I think another way to think about it is teams, okay, where the arts becomes the practice, the how, the verb, the lessons, where kids are actually learning persistence, discipline, collaboration. These kids from an elementary school in Oakland got up on a Saturday morning, and we brought them out to an event in Marin at Slide Ranch. And they are showing courage right now. They're in front of strangers playing. They look a little nervous. They're listening to each other. A couple of them have half smiles on. They're excited. But apathy and music making cannot coexist, okay? And when you are playing music with others, you are embodying empathic behavior and reciprocity. They are both expressing themselves and listening to the ones next to them. And finally, they're trusting one another, like those climbers. They're depending on one another. And if you don't think that they're doing content, think again. Each chord structure, each bit of tempo, each note duration, each harmony, each melody is something they've had to learn. And they've had to trust their gut, and they're realizing that hard work pays off. There's a lot going on there, but what's happening is they're learning not just to be, but they're learning to interbe. Has anybody ever seen this word? You've seen it. I love this word, I love this idea, this philosophy that's been promoted by a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and teacher and artist who actually created the national service movement in Vietnam after World War II. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh. And his order of practice is called interbeing. And it's funny that we were just talking about meditation, because if this seems far out and wacky, I would add to the military folks that they had up there meditating in the last session that it was the #1 topic at Davos. Our world-leading economists and business folks, the #1 topic they were talking about was mindfulness and meditation. Because the world is so complex that we need to develop the internal skills to be able to see what is not accepted as evident. And I believe that music and the arts and co-creative service activity enable us to do that. And so I'll just leave you with this idea that if we want to create more balance and move from understanding these concepts to implementing them, then we should think about music and the arts in maybe a way that goes beyond performance and entertainment. And go beyond music and the arts to co-creative activity, whether it's gardens, whether it's food, whether it's outdoor core, but a creative core that would enable us to create the soil from which future innovations would grow. Thank you so much.